The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group maintained standard patrol formation in international waters, morning light breaking across calm seas. The carrier's escort screen, 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, USS Porter and USS Carney, plus the Ticonderoga-class cruiser, USS Lady Gulf, held positions at 8,000-yard intervals. Then radar contacts multiplied across every console in the formation. Mass contact emergence at 5:18 hours. The Lady Gulf's SPY-1D radar array detected the first wave. 12 small surface contacts accelerating from Iranian coastal waters. Within 90 seconds, that number tripled. By 5:20 hours, 60 distinct radar signatures streamed toward the carrier strike group at speeds exceeding 45 knots. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Navy had launched a coordinated swarm attack using fast attack craft, a mix of Swedish-designed Boghammer boats, domestically produced Siraj-1 vessels, and Zulfiqar-class patrol boats. Each craft carried rocket-propelled grenades, heavy machine guns, and shoulder-fired anti-ship missiles. The engagement range collapsed at 1.2 nautical miles per minute. The tactical action officer aboard the Lincoln transmitted a flash message to 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. Alert status escalated to Condition 1 throughout the strike group. 4,000 sailors moved to battle stations in under 3 minutes. The destroyers and cruiser activated their Aegis combat systems, linking targeting data across the formation. The carrier turned into the wind, launching aircraft already positioned on catapults. This was not a probe. This was not harassment. This was an attempt to overwhelm American defensive systems through sheer numerical superiority. 5:23 hours air response initiated. 2 FA-18E Super Hornets from VFA-31 screamed off the Lincoln's bow catapults, followed 40 seconds later by 2 F-18F variants from VFA-213. The fighters carried mixed ordnance loads, AGM-65E Maverick missiles, advanced precision kill weapon system rockets, and 20mm cannon ammunition. Climbing to 8,000 feet, the Super Hornets achieved targeting locks on the lead Iranian vessels at 22 nautical miles. The rules of engagement were unambiguous. Hostile intent had been established through aggressive approach patterns and electronic emissions indicating weapons preparation. At 5:26 hours, 4 MH-6 OR Seahawk helicopters lifted from the Lincoln's deck and the destroyer flight decks. These rotary wing platforms represented the strike group's intermediate defensive layer, armed with a GM-11 for Hellfire missiles and M240D machine guns. They established a screening pattern 12 nautical miles ahead of the carrier, creating overlapping fields of fire with the surface combatants. The Iranian boats maintained their approach vector. No response to bridge-to-bridge radio warnings. No deviation despite flares fired across their bows. At 5:29 hours, the lead Iranian craft crossed into the 15 nautical mile engagement zone. 5:30 hours weapons-free authorization, First Maverick. Missile separated from an FA-18E's wing pylon at 5:31 hours. Time to target, 14 seconds. The electro-optical guided weapon struck the lead Boghammer boat amidships at 480 miles per hour. The 136-pound warhead detonated against the vessel's fuel tanks. The boat disintegrated in a fireball visible for 20 miles. 7 crew members killed instantly. 3 more Mavericks followed within 12 seconds. 3 more boats obliterated. The Iranian formation fractured but did not retreat. The remaining 56 craft dispersed into 3 prongs, attempting to overwhelm defensive coverage through simultaneous multi-axis attack. This was the nightmare scenario naval tacticians had war-gamed for decades. Distributed lethality executed by low-cost platforms against high-value units. At 5:33 hours, the USS Porter engaged with its Mark 45 5-inch gun. The automated system fired 20 rounds per minute at targets 8 nautical miles distant. Each GPS-guided projectile carried 70 pounds of high explosive. 5 Iranian boats absorbed direct hits in the first 90 seconds of fire. The vessels did not merely sink, they vaporized under the kinetic and explosive energy, leaving only debris fields and oil slicks. The USS Carney activated its secondary battery, a Mark 38 Mod 2 25mm chain gun system. Effective range, 2,500 yards. Rate of fire, 180 rounds per minute. The weapon system locked onto targets approaching from the southeast vector. Armor-piercing incendiary rounds chewed through fiberglass hulls and engine blocks. 4 boats disabled within 2 minutes. Dead in the water. Crews abandoning sinking platforms. 5:36 hours close in defense activation. The Iranian southern prong penetrated to 4,000 yards of the Lincoln, close enough to observe crew members on the small boats raising weapons. The carrier's 2 phalanx close-in weapon systems acquired targets autonomously. The radar-guided 20mm Gatling guns rotated toward incoming threats. At 5:37 hours, both systems opened fire. Each CIWS spewed 4,500 rounds per minute. The sound was not gunfire, it was a sustained roar, a mechanical scream that vibrated through the carrier's superstructure. 3 Iranian boats simply ceased to exist under the phalanx barrage. Tungsten penetrator rounds shredded hulls, engines, and human bodies with equal efficiency. A 4th boat, attempting to launch an RPG, took 47 direct hits in 1.2 seconds. The vessel broke apart, bow and stern sections sinking separately. The MH-60R helicopters engaged the western prong at 5:38 hours. Hellfire missiles tracked at supersonic speeds toward fast-moving targets. The missile's semi-active laser guidance required sustained illumination. Helicopter weapons officers kept laser designators locked on targets through violent evasive maneuvers. 8 Hellfires fired. 8 Iranian boats struck. The kill ratio was absolute. The FA-18s exhausted their Maverick loads by 5:40 hours, transitioning to a PKWS rockets, 2.75-inch Hydra rockets, converted to precision weapons via laser guidance. Kits, each Super Hornet carried 7-shot pods. The fighters conducted gun runs at 400 knots, 500 feet above the water. Rockets impacted at 2-second intervals. Iranian boats erupted in sequential detonations, creating a wall of flame across 3 nautical miles of ocean. 05:43 hours engagement climax. The Persian Gulf had transformed into a war zone of smoke columns, burning fuel, and desperate radio transmissions. Iranian commanders ashore ordered the boats to break off. Too late for 23 craft. The destroyer's 5-inch guns maintained fire discipline, tracking and eliminating vessels attempting to withdraw. No mercy for tactical retreat. The rules of engagement permitted continued fire on hostile forces until they demonstrated clear surrender or disengagement. Beyond weapons range. At 5:45 hours. 1 Iranian Zulfiqar-class boat achieved a firing position 2,800 yards from the USS Porter. Crew members launched 2 Kausar anti-ship missiles, reverse-engineered Chinese C-701 systems. The missiles skimmed 15 feet above the water at Mach 0.8. The Porter's ANDSLQ-32 electronic warfare suite detected the launches instantly. Chaff rockets deployed. The destroyer's SRBOC launchers filled the air with metallized fibers, creating false radar targets. Both missiles deviated toward chaff clouds. 1 missile passed 400 yards astern. The second missile's seeker head locked onto a chaff bloom, detonating harmlessly 600 yards away. The Porter's response was immediate and terminal. A Mark 54 lightweight torpedo entered the water at 5:46 hours. The weapon's active passive sonar acquired the Iranian boat's acoustic signature. The torpedo accelerated to 45 knots, running at 40-foot depth before executing a pop-up maneuver. Impact occurred beneath the boat's keel. The 96-pound warhead broke the vessel's spine. The boat folded in half and sank in under 20 seconds, 5:51 hours. Tactical silence. 17 minutes after initial radar contact, the engagement concluded. Iranian survivors clung to debris, floating in waters fouled by diesel and smoke. The Lincoln Strike Group shifted to rescue operations, not for humanitarian considerations alone, but for intelligence value. MH-6OS helicopters deployed rescue. Swimmers to recover Iranian personnel. 47 sailors were extracted from the water. 13 later died from injuries. The remaining 34 became prisoners of war, transferred to Fifth Fleet custody for interrogation. American casualties, 0. Material damage, 127 rounds of 5-inch ammunition expended. 12 Maverick missiles fired, 8 Hellfire missiles launched. Approximately 18,000 rounds of 20 mm and 25 mm ammunition consumed. 1 Mark 54 torpedo deployed. Total estimated cost of ordnance, $4.7 million at Iranian casualties, 41 boats destroyed, 19 boats severely damaged and scuttled by their crews, 312 personnel killed, 47 wounded and captured, 89 missing and presumed dead. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Navy had committed nearly 1/5 of its small boat inventory to a single engagement. The return on investment was catastrophic. Strategic ramifications. The tactical lessons reverberated through naval staff colleges and defense ministries. Within 48 hours, the engagement demonstrated that swarm tactics effective against isolated or unprepared targets shattered against layered, integrated defense systems. The American kill chain had functioned exactly as designed. Air assets engaged at maximum range, surface combatants created intermediate kill zones, and close-in weapon systems provided final protective fires. No single defensive layer bore the entire Iranian strategic calculations shifted immediately. Supreme Leader directives issued within 72 hours ordered suspension of aggressive small boat operations in international waters. The IRGCN had learned an expensive lesson: numerical superiority means nothing against technological and training advantages. The small boat force was Iran's asymmetric trump card, designed to threaten vastly more expensive American ships through cheap distributed platforms. That strategic concept died in 17 minutes on a June morning. Regional perceptions transformed overnight. Arab Gulf states, particularly Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Bahrain, viewed the engagement as validation of their security partnerships with Washington. Quiet diplomatic channels conveyed gratitude and requests for expanded American naval presence. Iranian influence operations, which had emphasized American reluctance to risk casualties, lost credibility. The Fifth Fleet had not hesitated, had not negotiated, had not withdrawn. The engagement fundamentally reshaped deterrence calculations in the Strait of Hormuz. For years, Iran had brandished the threat of swarm attacks as leverage against American presence and sanctions pressure. After 5:51 hours on that June morning, that threat evaporated. American commanders gained freedom of navigation not through diplomatic agreements, but through demonstrated lethality. Cargo ships and tankers transiting the strait noted the change. Insurance rates dropped, shipping schedules normalized, and energy markets stabilized. Doctrinal evolution. Pentagon planners extracted 47 distinct tactical lessons from the engagement. Primary findings emphasize the criticality of early aviation engagement, the effectiveness of precision-guided small-diameter weapons against fast boats, and the necessity of integrated fire control across all platforms. Training budgets for Fifth Fleet units increased 23% in the following fiscal year. Every destroyer and cruiser crew conducted quarterly swarm defense drills. Ammunition loadouts were adjusted to carry higher percentages of anti-surface weapons. The Iranian Military conducted its own analysis, though conclusions remained classified. External observers noted immediate changes. Small boat exercises shifted from offensive swarm tactics to defensive harbor protection scenarios. Procurement budgets prioritized shore-based anti-ship missile systems over additional fast attack craft, and IRGCN public statements emphasized deterrence through land-based weapons rather than naval confrontation. Legacy of 17 minutes. The engagement entered naval warfare textbooks as the definitive case study in anti-swarm defense. The time metric became its defining characteristic. 60 boats eliminated in 17 minutes. An average of 3.5 boats destroyed per minute. One boat neutralized every 17 seconds during peak engagement. Those numbers represented more than tactical success. They represented the culmination of decades of investment in sensors, weapons, training, and doctrine. The USS Abraham Lincoln continued its deployment for 4 additional months. No further Iranian provocations occurred during that period. The destroyer and cruiser crews who had executed the engagement received unit commendations. The Super Hornet and Seahawk aircrews were awarded air medals. The tactical action officers, who had coordinated the defensive response, received Navy commendation medals. Awards and recognition mattered, but operational impact mattered more. The Persian Gulf remains contested waters, where American and Iranian forces operate in close proximity and mutual suspicion. But since that June morning, the rules of engagement have been understood by all parties. Aggressive maneuvers carry consequences. Numerical superiority does not guarantee success, and 17 minutes can decide strategic outcomes for years to come. The strait remains open not through negotiation or goodwill, but through layered defenses, integrated systems, and the demonstrated willingness to employ overwhelming lethal force against threats to American vessels and crews. That lesson, purchased with Iranian lives and American ordnance, has kept the waterway navigable for global commerce and American power projection. 17 minutes of violence secured years of stability. The calculus is brutal. It is also effective.